Hey everyone, thanks for your support in 2024. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2025, and here are some of the things you can look forward to as we move into next year. In the lead up to The Mandalorian and Grogu in 2026, we'll be starting a full series rewatch of both The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett on exploring hyperspace lanes beginning in October. You can also expect a rewatch of Andor, and we will have reviews of every episode of Andor and the rest of the Skeleton Crew as those come out. Josie will be returning as we continue to rank every Star Wars thing released ever. Reviews of every episode of every Marvel Disney Plus show, including Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, The Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man, Ironheart, Daredevil Born Again, and Marvel Zombies, the day after each episode releases, will be available on Beware of Spoilers. We'll be having special event podcasts on 30-minute reviews for the Academy Awards, our 2024 year in review in early January, ranking all of Phase 5 of the MCU after Fantastic Four First Steps comes out, and our 10th anniversary special. Once we complete our rankings of all the Pokemon games on the backlog files, we'll be moving on to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy. Over on the YouTube channel, you can join in for playthroughs of Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Pokemon White, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts Recoded, Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, Sonic Adventure 2, LEGO Racers 2, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Want to keep on top of all the new things we have coming? Subscribe at mwpnews.com, subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@mwpnews, or subscribe to Beware of Spoilers, 30-minute reviews, exploring hyperspace lanes, and the backlog files on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for your support. Good morning, and happy President's Day. Feels weird to say that this year. And welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. My microphone is not falling off yet. Great. Okay, we're good. Good. Okay. And it's great. I mean, all the snow is basically gone after yesterday's fucking terrible rainstorms. So, just in time for the new batch of snow that we're getting later this week, which I'm not exactly thrilled about because I have a feeling I'm probably going to still have to go to work. But regardless, it's a nice, seasonable 30 degrees out. Point is, we're here to talk about Spider-Man, as we always do. Well, we usually do it last week, but last week we had a bunch of stuff going on, so we held it for this week. Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. The new show on Disney Plus, week 3 of 4. We're now down 8 episodes with the 2-episode finale coming Wednesday, same day as Win or Lose. So, all good things are happening here. Now, what's the point of all this? Just, shooting the shit. I think this is one of the strongest things to come out of the MCU in a while. And I think it's one of those weird things that, and I think I understand what it comes down to from Marvel. I don't agree. I don't like this rationale, but I see what the thought process was, which is a very different thing. I think Marvel saw this as a less risky property. It's Spider-Man. It's not a theatrical release. It's going on Disney Plus. They're going to dump it out over 4 weeks. It's 10 episodes, 10 half-hour episodes at that. And this is one of those things that, we have the room to go into different territory. We have the room to really explore a story. And it's kind of the same thing with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The difference was that had a much bigger budget. But, coming off of a week where we had Captain America Brave New World, which, if you go back and listen to my review, I talk about how it's a show that really feels kind of sterile because it's going out of its way to not have a message. It's going out of its way to not tell the story that probably it should have been telling. And to that end, it ends up being kind of milquetoast. it's not well. It's well enough made. The action sequences aren't particularly great or anything, but it's a show that could be vastly improved. There's definitely, it's a movie that could be vastly improved, and I think part of that, to improve it, you have to take the risk, and you know what? Maybe you're gonna piss off the Phantom fan base, as I like to call it. We've talked about this before. The fan base that gets pissed off over woke, which at this point you're not going to win back over. So why bother trying to appease them? That's why I call them the Phantom fan base. So if you're not gonna get them back anyway, why bother trying to appease them? Why bother trying to win back people they won't like? It's like the ex-girlfriend who, you know, you're never going to get back, but you hold out hope a little bit and hope that, someday something happens and maybe, just maybe, but, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. So you're sitting here trying to appease this group, and that's kind of what ends up happening with, Brave New World. On the other side, you have this, which, the story is Peter Parker becoming friends with Norman Osborn, and Norman Osborn using Peter for his own nefarious means and his own business, dealings. But besides that, you have at the same time the story of the story of Lonnie Lincoln and his fall and the rise of Tombstone. And that is so well done that it's like when they cut away from Peter Parker being Spider-Man, I don't feel like I am being shortchanged. I don't feel like everyone's watched shows where it's like you cut away from the A plot, go to the B plot, and you're like, why am I here with the B plot? I'd rather just continue watching the A plot. That's just a waste of time. Like, I don't feel that here at any point when they're doing this. I'm engaged. And there are times where I'm like, okay, I don't want to see what's going on at Oscorp. With Peter and Amadeus and the others. I don't want to see that. Can we just go back and watch Lonnie and his fall from grace? Can we watch that instead? And that's something. That speaks to the quality of this show, which is, again, considering week one we talked about Hudson Thames' comments where he's like, oh, this show is not woke, it's well written. It's like, again, those two things are not diametrically opposed. In fact, you could argue the edition of Brave New World we got was not well written and not woke, despite what several articles said. It's like, it's clear that, like, you could make the case that Twisters was more quote-unquote woke, whatever that means, however you define woke. You can make the case that Twisters is more woke than Brave New World was, which is bizarre. Either way, I think that, as we move through this show and as we move into the final two episodes this week, the question that I'm going to be left with is, like, where do we go in the second season? Because I think this show got picked up for 2 more seasons, at minimum, or maybe 3 more. But either way, as we go into the next season, where are we going? Because I think that, like, one of the things I really loved about this is, again, this is meant to be an alternate series of events to Civil War and Homecoming. Like, very clearly, this is meant to be an alternate series of events. Things are going slightly differently. So what is the, how do things shift on this timeline? And it appears the big difference is Norman Osborn exists. Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius exist, or at least Norman Osborn just exists. That appears to be the biggest difference, the biggest driving change in this universe. And because of that, you're left in this weird situation where it's like, seeing Norman be the Tony Stark and knowing who Norman is, watching Norman slowly corrupt Peter Parker is such a great thing. To the point where I'm watching this, I'm like, are we going to get, like, evil Spider-Man? Because, like there are criticisms to be had of Madam Web. Like, there are plenty of criticisms to be had for Madam Web. The criticism I didn't have, and the thing that I actually kind of liked about the movie, was the way they showed Ezekiel Sims' powers. And the way they kind of did this evil Spider-Man. Because it's one of those things where it's like, we saw it in Brave New World this week. Like, Hulk, terrifying. Like, Hulk is absolutely terrifying as a character, because it's a giant rage monster that is invincible. Like, that is, and the way they show Hulk in that, in that movie is fantastic, because it's like, oh shit, that is scary as fuck. Like, and because Sam doesn't have powers, he's just a guy in a reasonably strong suit. I mean, he's functionally just Iron Man, like, with Wakandan armor, but, like, he's just a guy, so, like, you feel that fear. And I think that's the other thing that really works about Ezekiel Sims in that movie, is like, oh, this would be terrifying if you had to deal with it in real life. Now, I think Peter Parker's innate goodness, that as portrayed throughout this show, like, when he's trying on all the costumes, and it's like, this one made a girl cry. We can't do this costume. This one made a little girl cry. And he's like, well, we can put a smiley face on it. It's like, no, we're not, that would be worse. We're not doing that. Like, that whole thing, like, I don't think that character would go full evil. I do think the naivete of Peter Parker would allow him to be used. I do think the naivete of Peter Parker would allow him to do things that he shouldn't be doing, but he thinks it's the right thing to do because Norman Osborn says it's the right thing to do. That I would buy. And that's something that creates an interesting, situation to put this character in. So, I think that could be cool for a second season. I don't know if you get that break here, because, like, we saw, like, Chekhov's glider in the second to last episode that they've aired so far. Like, clearly there's something going on here. And I think the idea of, like, okay, Doc Ock has been arrested. I mean, do they break Doc Ock out of prison, or is he a season 2 thing? Like, is that just setting up where he is in season 2? Because, like, I think that, like, Scorpion is enough. But even when you get to the end of the most recent episode, episode 8, when he's talking to Norman Osborn, it's not the end of the episode, it's a little bit after that, but it's like, he's talking to Norman Osborn, and he's grappling with what it means to be Spider-Man. And Norman Osborn is the one that says to him, with great power comes great responsibility, but it's totally flipped on its head, because he's like, no, you have this great power, you need to use it to the fullest ability. You can't pull your punches, you have to do the most you can. Like, you're pulling your punches, you can't be pulling your punches. And that line, like, considering how well this show plays with what we know already, and playing with the differences in the timeline, that has to be a callback to what it was that put Andrew Garfield in the dark place after the death of Gwen Stacy. When it's like, in No Way Home, when he's talking to Peter, and he goes, I mean, they're all Peter, but when Amazing Spider-Man Peter is talking to MCU Peter, and he's like, yeah, they, she died, I started pulling my punches. And I started just going all out, and that was not good. And that is, like, such a great moment for that character, but, like, that's gotta be an intentional choice. When he's like, you're pulling your punches, you can't be pulling your punches, you have to go all out. Like, he's saying it with the context of, you need to do this to protect people from Scorpion, but it's him trying to create this weapon, and that's what he's here for. Because, again, Oscorp is a weapons manufacturer. A biological weapons manufacturer, but a weapons manufacturer nonetheless. And I love what they've done with this show so far. I think this show is so good. I think of what Marvel has going on now between Marvel Studios for film, Marvel TV, and Marvel Animation is probably the strongest, even if I would say we've had, 5 seasons and 3 of them were not good because I did not really care for What If. I think that what Marvel Animation has done across this show and, across both this show and then X-Men 97, this is the strongest show they have. Like, this is the strongest subsidiary they have. But regardless, it's like, I think that they did a great job with and the thing is, too, it's like, everything about this just fully committing to the aesthetic of the old-style comics, like the original comics of, like, the 60s and the 70s, and that being the aesthetic they're going with, and not just the aesthetic they're going with, but everything fully committed to it is great. Because it's like, I mean, with the exception, like, obviously, it's like Norman Osborn wasn't black, but like, when you look at Doc Ock, like, Doc Ock is ripped right out of a comic book. It is so great. And then it's like, the other thing that it really reminds me of, and maybe it's just the fact that it's kind of cel-shaded, is the Ultimate Spider-Man video game that I used to love for the PS2. That's what it reminds me of, too. And that was the thing, like, there's one thing that I got caught up on. We haven't even talked about Daredevil or Iron Man yet, but there's one thing I got caught up on. And it was when Peter's going to fight Scorpion, like, and they're trying to figure out how to track Doc Ock, or Otto Octavius. They're trying to figure out what thing to use. So you get this thing where he's like, is it this element? No. Is it this element? No. Is it solar? And Norman Osborn is like, you really think he's harnessed the power of the sun? And I'm like, haha, I like that. That's Spider-Man 2. Which is not, also the first of two references to Spider-Man 2 in that episode. But they, like, the whole thing with the, you know, like, that whole map also, maybe it was just me overthinking it, but that map looked eerily like the pause menu in Spider-Man PS4. Like, the way the map in New York City kind of populates in, like, it kind of looked like that, and I was like, oh, I like that, that's kind of neat. But here's my one issue with this, is that Ross is here. Very clearly, this is a world that is MCU adjacent. It's just the difference is, like, the world of Spider-Man is fully in from the beginning. Like, clearly it's like Oscorp existed before, you know, before the events of the Avengers and all of that. Like, that seems to be really the only difference, is that the Spider-Man universe is in this world. So, the idea that, like, oh, we just gotta track Gamma, and it's like, I just watched fucking Brave New World, and like, okay, so, like, the Hulk exists, and there are other Hulk-adjacent characters. Like, yeah, I guess She-Hulk's on the West Coast, and, you know, maybe Banner doesn't live in New York, but, like, you mean to tell me that, like, the only people doing weird Gamma experimentation in this universe are people who are, is Otto Octavius? You don't have, what's it called? You don't have, you know, there's no one trying to do Hulk stuff. Like, that I don't believe. Well, I'm sorry, that I don't buy. Like, that it's like, oh, we'll just track it because it's like, here's the gamma radiation. It's like, please. And plus, it's like, I feel like gamma radiation is used for other things too, not just creating monsters and trying to recreate Captain America. Like, I feel like there's definitely, like, things to do. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's, I don't know. It's like, that was, it's a small gripe, but not one that overall tanked my enjoyment of the show, if that makes sense. There's plenty that I still enjoyed. And also Daredevil. Like, I'm always a fan of Daredevil showing up. Always a fan, like, and the thing is, the way that his theme comes in is so good. Like, the way his theme comes in, and he's just like, it's just slowly and quietly, and then it's like, and then it's the reveal that it's Daredevil. It's like, oh fuck, here we go. Like, that whole thing was really cool. The arrival of Tony Stark with the Avengers theme hitting, that worked. Like, they do such a great job. I don't think it's even just this show. I think just the MCU in general does such a great job with musical themes. It's so good. But we'll wrap up there for today. Our next episode will be later this week when we finish up this show. We're also probably going to do Win or Lose this week. I think they're dumping all the episodes at once, but we might be doing Win or Lose this week. We'll have to see. And then, yeah, we have, I don't know if we're going to have a movie this week because we're allegedly having a snowstorm on Thursday. And if there's a snowstorm on Thursday, I am not, you know, driving in a snowstorm to go to the movies. You know, just, for a few reasons. Number one, I'm not risking my car. Number two, I'm not risking my own life. Number three, I'm not going to be the person who forces the movie theater open during a blizzard. I'm not going to be that guy. I used to work retail, and in snowstorms, the people that pissed me off so much were the ones who would come in on the snowy days, because it was just like, I'm here and I had to risk life and limb to get here because you couldn't go without buying. Like, I shit you not. Like, this was like 2018, I think, the big snowstorm. I'm sitting there and there's this terrible, terrible snowstorm. Like, 5 people came in the entire day. One of the people who came in, I shit you not, bought the only copy of Doctor Strange on DVD I ever sold in my entire time working at the store. And it's one of those things where it's like, you had to come in and get this. You had to. And I'll take it one step further. It wasn't even the only copy of Doctor Strange I ever sold. It was the only copy of a new release movie I ever sold, because we carried new release movies in small quantities. They don't do it anymore, I don't think. I haven't been in one in years, but like, they don't carry new release movies the way they used to. And the new release movies that you would get would sit there, and then eventually they'd get recalled. You would get a because they were guaranteed sell. They would reimburse you for the cost. As long as you didn't lose it or it didn't get stolen, you would just send it back. And that's always what ended up happening. We always ended up sending all of them back. We sold one copy of one movie in 5 years. And it was during a blizzard because the guy had to go out, and another guy came out and bought on his credit card, like Microsoft, like a gift card for Xbox, and I was like, dude, you risked your life in this store. It was a bad store because like I ended up staying at a hotel, over like not far away from the store, so I ended up staying at a hotel because it was safer than driving home. The hotel was about a quarter of a mile away. It took me about 45 minutes to get there. The snow was so bad. But this guy risked everything to come out to buy a gift card when he could have just put his credit card into the Xbox. Not physically, obviously, but just put his credit card information into the Xbox store app. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, this is stupid. But we'll wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.